External Affairs Minister S Jaishankar has once again named and shamed Pakistan for backing and shielding terrorists. In another stinging attack at Pakistan, Jaishankar, speaking to an Austrian media channel, reiterated that the epicenter of terror is located close to India and even highlighted how the Pakistani government is breeding terror on their soil and funding terror camps to unleash violence in India. He did not stop there. Jaishankar even listed how Pakistan has attacked the Parliament of India, which attacked the city of Mumbai, which every day sends terrorists across the border and gets away with it. The External Affairs Minister also underscored how the European nations have failed to condemn Pakistan's terror activities and the need for all nations to unite to name and shame Pakistan on a global platform.
So believe me, considering what has been happening to us, I think epicenter is a very diplomatic word, because this is a country which has attacked the Parliament of India some years ago, which attacked the city of Mumbai, which went after hotels and foreign tourists, which every day sends terrorists across the border. If you control your sovereign space, which I believe they do, if the terrorist camps operate in broad daylight in cities with recruitment and financing, can you really tell me that the Pakistani state doesn't know what's going on? Especially if they're being trained in military level combat tactics. You know, when we speak about judgments and principles, why don't I hear sharp European condemnation of these practices which have been going on for multiple decades? I think the world has to be concerned that there is terrorism going on, and the world often looks away. The world often feels it's not my problem because it's happening to some other country. I think the world needs to be concerned about how sincerely and strongly it takes up the challenge of terrorism. I think there's a larger concern which is based on our experiences. The concern is that we had agreements with China not to mass forces in our border areas, and they have not observed those agreements, which is why we have the currently tense situation that we do. We have seen levels of military pressure which in our view has no justification.
China would say the opposite. They would say that India had not obeyed different agreements.
The record is very clear, because today, you know, there's a lot of transparency. You have satellite pictures. If you see who moved the forces to the border areas first, I think the record is very clear. So it's very difficult for China to say what you suggested they could. We had an agreement not to unilaterally change the line of control, which they have tried to unilaterally do that. So there is, I think, an issue, a perception that we have which derives directly from our experiences. Now, where else the status quo may change or not change, you know, I would hesitate as a foreign minister to predict publicly. I may have my own views and assessments. But I certainly can share my experience, and my experience is that written agreements were not observed.
Let's talk about the war in Ukraine. As you are well aware, the whole world noticed that India, as a very influential country, has never publicly condemned Russia's assault and invasion into a neighboring country. Why is that so? Can you really be neutral in a war for which obviously one side bears all responsibility?
Well, look, I think in international relations, you have sometimes very complicated situations. And where we are concerned, we have always taken the position that the way out is for the countries concerned to get back to dialogue and to diplomacy.
I'll come to that too, but is this a complicated situation? Is this really complicated? There's just one big country invading its neighbor.
No, look, I can give you many instances of countries who have violated the sovereignty of another country. You know, if I were to ask where Europe stood on a lot of those, I'm afraid I'll get a long silence.